Greetings and welcome back to my channel. I'm glad you have returned. Today we're going to talk about new music by living jazz musicians. Something I've complained about a lot in the past, or really just made an observation that many young jazz musicians cannot afford to press their recordings to vinyl because it's too expensive. But that is slowly changing as bigger labels like Non-Such are getting to the deal. Blue Note is putting out most of their young artists on vinyl, even though I was told once that they have to know they're going to sell 5,000 records before they will press vinyl for one of their artists. In saying so, and with that, it's my feeling that a lot of new jazz doesn't translate very well in the recording studio. Over the Winter Jazz Fest, I saw the Emmanuel Wilkins group, and it was unbelievable. It was truly profound. Great drummer. You have these two, I believe they're Indian Gowaldi singers. I'm sure someone will correct me, two female singers. And it was, spiritual jazz, but it was just astonishing. The group was astonishing, and they were so connected. I saw them at the City Winery, and these two vocalists just lifted the music. It was really amazing. But if you listen to his record on Blue Note, it's not quite as dynamic. And I feel that may be the case with many young jazz artists. Some of the music is so expansive, it's hard to capture it in the recording studio. The older music, the stuff we like that gets reissued, is simple music, and it was captured very, very well. I can remember when they first started putting out, well, even now you'll hear jazz recordings, new jazz recordings on vinyl, and they just don't sound very good. And whoever did the mix for vinyl didn't know what the fuck they were doing. I've heard quite a few records like that, not from Blue Note. Their records sound really good, but it is hard, I believe, for modern jazz musicians to translate their music to the recording. Because at Winter Jazz Fest, I was really just knocked out by so many great bands. And what we're going to talk about today, or who we're going to talk about today, who all have newish recordings: pianist Omar Sosa's 88 well-tuned drums. This is music taken from the documentary about his life. Bassist Michael Bates, Metamorphoses, variations on Lutoslawski, and the new Chris Potter album, which I physically cannot find. It just got wings and flew away. But the new Chris Potter coming out on Edition Records, I believe, next month, with Brian Blade, John Patitucci, and Brad Meldau. But let's start with Omar Sosa's 88 well-tuned drums. And I guess they call it that because the keyboard has 88 keys and he plays them all like drums. Kind of a cliche, he's percussive, he's Afro-Cuban. But this music is so rich and so playful. And it has the underpinnings of clave and Afro-Cuban. There are salsa moments, incredible arrangements, incredible playing. There's the poetry, the voice of Langston Hughes at one point. And you can check out the sound samples to hear more of it. But this guy has recorded 36 albums as a leader. That's pretty astonishing, and most of them on his OTA label, OTA. This is beautifully recorded. It sounds great on my hi-fi, and I urge you to seek it out. I'm sure if you go to his website, you can hear sound samples, but it's just a beautiful recording. Hope you enjoyed the samples here from my crazy hi-fi rig. Next up, contrabass. Next up, double bassist Michael Bates, a Canadian young man who actually came in the Jazz Record Center a couple weeks ago with this record. I mean, look at this cover. Is that a beautiful cover or what? And right away, the orange really, really strikes you. And This is the double LP. The first LP is Michael Bates' Acrobat, which is his sextet, including drummer Michael Sarin, who's been around a long time, has done some great ECM records. Sarin sort of pops up in different places. And also in the group, violinist Feng Chern Hui, who's a friend of mine, a friend of John DeVore's. He and I have met at DeVore's and listened to records before. One day we were out there on John DeVore's incredible system. We listened to 78s. That was breathtaking. And this is a left turn. But it's funny how as a society, we always think the new thing is the better thing. And the vinyl resurgence sort of slapped that on the ass, because we know CDs aren't the better thing. That's why vinyl has made such a comeback. And when you hear 78 on a great turntable with a stylus and an arm set up correctly and a great hi-fi in the right EQ curves, man, we heard Ella Fitzgerald at John's, and it was just astounding, the speed and the power of hearing a 78 on a great system. But I digress. And the second LP is Lutoslawski Quartet. I believe Lutoslawski is a Polish composer. These are Polish musicians. The record was recorded in Poland, and this record sonically sounds fantastic. You can tell that musicians are on a big stage. The drums are super resonant, and these are amazing musicians. I sort of call it progressive punk classical. That's what it is to me. And Michael Bates has a long history. He's played jazz, punk, hardcore. He's done a lot of improvised music. He's made many records that have appeared on Sunnyside, Clean Feed, Fresh Sounds, Greenleaf, which is Dave Douglas's label. And this record is a riot. If you're, it's jazz, it is kind of punk, it's kind of classical, it is progressive classical, but everyone breaks off and takes these really aggro solos. And there's just so much energy here and power and fun, and there are quieter tracks. I don't have any records by Lutoslawski, but I'm definitely going to look for them now. And you can hear this if you go to prestomusic.com. You can hear samples of all the tracks on this record. But just great performances. The ensembles are super tight. They all sound like they're actually having fun. So, and there's great improvisations, interesting melodies, and it's just a really unusual record, right down to this crazy cover, which caught my eye right away on the Anaclysis label. 2LP, 180 gram. As I said, I don't know what I did with the Chris Potter record, or I would hold it up. It's called Eagle's Point. It's on Nonsuch. I believe it comes out March 23rd. And, I've always sort of thought Chris Potter, I guess he sort of does come out of the Michael Brecker school. And I sort of just kind of branded him as that when I heard him with Matheny in his Unity group, or he's played with so many people. He's a star tenor player. He's played with Steely Dan, and just an incredible, technician. But on this record, which is a 2LP set, and what's nice on both these records is the tracks are spread out on each side, so nothing's being jammed in. There's nothing near the lead out groove for dynamics in music to be compressed. There's tons of space on both sides. But there's one track on this Chris Potter record where he plays bass clarinet. And not only is it recorded beautifully, his sound is just full and rich, and it's big, and it's really beautiful. And all these guys played great. Brad Meldau, Brian Blade, John Patitucci on bass. And it's all, these are all state-of-the-art guys who are all leaders in their own right. And in a way, compared to the previous two records I've just spoken about, in a way, these guys are like my age. They're like the old guard of contemporary jazz. And in a way, the forms are almost like post-bop forms. It's definitely not spiritual jazz that Chris Potter is writing. It's more, it comes out of the 90s and the aughties, I guess we call it. Very strong, powerful. You sort of know what to expect. But in saying that, I really dug the record, and it's beautifully recorded. It's on Edition Records. It was recorded to tape. I forgot where it was, who did the work, but I emailed the publicist. Definitely recorded to tape, and it's a wonderful recording. And I just thought the performances were great. I don't think anybody who is into jazz of any sort would not like this record, Chris Potter, Eagles Point. I just thought it was really strong on all counts and something to check out. And hey, so far all these guys are alive. Well, now let's talk about somebody who's dead. Mingus Takes Manhattan, the complete Birdland dates, 1961 to 1962. Chris Brown over at his channel did a great historical overview of the piece. Chris is such a detail-oriented guy. He has a great mind for facts and figures, which I don't have. So I would like to talk a little bit about the sonic quality and the performances on this 4 LP set. Recorded at Birdland, 61, 62. These are great performances. And like many live performances, things are faster. So tunes you might know, many of them are faster than you're used to hearing them. Great soloing, and this is a hell of a lineup. We got Roland Kirk, Yusuf Lateef, Charles McPherson, Toshiko Akiyoshi on one record, Henry Grimes and Doug Watkins playing bass either along with or in place of Mingus on a couple tracks. Jackie Byard on piano. I mean, these are great musicians. These are all the musicians we like who get reissued by all the famous reissue labels now. This is that period, 61, 62, where New York is alive. And I've heard a couple people say, oh, well, these are probably not any better than the bootlegs. I haven't heard the bootlegs, but there is obviously digital fixes on this. Newland, James Batford is really honest about the fact that they go in digitally and they have to correct things sometimes. Tapes that are old, these tapes were found in a basement in the Bronx, so they had to be restored. Other labels, I think, are a little disingenuous, that everything is from the tape and it's all beautiful and perfect, but you don't hear any pop-outs or dropouts or non-fill on these recordings. But it is 1961 and 1962. This is not the quality of like the last several Bill Evans records coming from Zev Feldman. They were recorded, for radio purposes in beautiful halls in Denmark. This is, Birdland, which if you look up Birdland now, you can see the what's there now. It's just a nondescript storefront. But I think these recordings are worth hearing, not only as something historical, but just for the incredible performances. These guys are they're killing. And tunes that you probably know, Eat That Chicken, all these songs have been recorded on different Mingus records. 4 LPs, I've seen it for $130, which I think is a pretty good price. Beautiful packaging, a 44-page booklet with essays by, a foreword by Christian McBride and an essay by Brian Priestley, one of the great writers out of the UK. There are good photos. There's an interview with Charles McPherson. Tape restoration and remastering by Pete Reynolds, also in the UK. from Pete Reynolds Mastering. He has remastered or mastered over 2,500 CDs. He's worked for EMI, for Guild, for Disney. This is a major cat, even though we might not know his name as well as we do Kevin Gray or the guys at Sterling Sound or whatever. He's a major guy in the UK, so I'm sure he's done all he could to restore these tapes. I haven't heard the bootlegs, but for me, when I've been playing these records during the day, you know, it's interesting. Some of this stuff you can hear the bridge from bebop to hard bop because the stuff is just burning, and they're amazing performances. They really are. But if you go into it expecting, you know, beautiful fidelity and yada yada yada, you're going to be shit out of luck. And I just feel like people need to put on a different set of ears when they're listening to historical recordings. You know, Mingus is right up there with Coltrane and Ellington and Miles. He made so many records, so many great classic records on Impulse, on CBS. If anybody has failed at remastering and putting out their records on vinyl, it's CBS, Sony. They did amazing work in the Audies. They did all the Miles stuff on CD, and then they just kind of said, okay, we're done with that. You know, it's kind of weird. They sleep on so much incredible material. Why don't they remaster and reissue some of the Weather Report records? Another sort of forgotten band. But, you know, Mingus made a lot of amazing records. Blues and Roots, all this great stuff on Atlantic. Just, he's an entire world, just like Ellington is an entire world to investigate and explore. I mean, we know the guys on Blue Note so well. I mean, I certainly do. I have so many of the records, but we collectively, jazz collectors in the vinyl community that I see here on YouTube, we sort of forget about, you know, Ellington, who made so many amazing records that are so deep. At the Jazz Record Center, Ellington he used to have 4 full rows that were just all his. It's sort of shrunk down now. But CBS hasn't reissued much of that either. You know, Blues in Orbit. I mean, so many amazing records. Anyway, I digress. So I think essentially that this Mingus record is great. It's 4 LPs. On Amazon, it's like $130. Beautiful packaging, as James Batsford at Newland always does. Just when you listen, you're not listening to a CD. You're not listening to studio recording. It puts you in the seat at Birdland. Hope you enjoy what I'm doing. Please like and subscribe so I can keep doing this. I have a lot of stuff upcoming. I'm going to do a best of ECM. I have many compilations, many comparisons to do yet. It's just hard to do it all with work. So thanks for watching.